Hey everybody, so today I'm here to give you guys a 1-year postpartum update. Very quickly, I'm going to give you kind of like a catch up in case you're new to my channel or my videos, and then I will touch on how I've been feeling after our third C-section, and finally and mostly focus on exclusively pumping and how that's been going. So to catch you all up, if you are new here, I had our youngest daughter Lexi at the end of August, obviously a little over a year ago now, but I'm just now getting to this update. But she was our third baby girl. She was our rainbow baby after 4 miscarriages. I did have her via C-section. It was my third C-section, so a repeat one. And even though we did have one scheduled, ours ended up being a little bit unplanned just because my water broke with her. So it was a few days early. I didn't get my own OBGYN that I had thought I would, and everything was obviously just very different because when your water breaks, it's baby time. I also had a tubal ligation done just because we no longer want to have biological children with everything that we went through trying to get Lexi. My recurrent pregnancy loss was diagnosed as unexplained, so there is nothing that we can do or try to do differently next time. With her, we did not do anything differently. It was just hoping each time would be different. So we weren't interested in doing that all over again. So for that reason, I had a tubal ligation. The sun is going in and out of clouds, so just excuse the variation in lighting because it is natural light. But yeah, my third C-section was definitely the hardest and most painful to recover from. But in my opinion, it had to do with the experience that I had. My first 2 C-sections that were performed at the same hospital with the same staff, with my same OBGYN, everything went perfectly with those. I felt fine, recovered very well. I had no problems with my C-section scar. Just everything went really well with them. I had no complaints at all. And my C-section scar from those 2 is completely invisible. You can't even see it, which is crazy. However, with our youngest, it was at a new hospital. Like I said, it was a bit of an unplanned C-section, so I did not get my OBGYN. I just got the one that was on call. I got the anesthesiologist that was on call and stuff like that, and it was just a very, very poor experience. If you're interested in the whole rundown, you can go watch my birth story. I tell you everything that happened there, but basically, I wasn't listened to. It felt like a rush job. Even though she was not coming, she was not in danger. Her heart rate was perfectly fine for the 3 hours I was being monitored. I was not continuing to dilate whatsoever, but it was still a very rush job. I followed up with my own OBGYN, and we have our own opinions about what happened. I'll just leave it at that. But since then, I am feeling good. I've had a lot of questions over on Instagram and stuff about how I feel like the tubal ligation has affected me. I know that there's a certain syndrome that a lot of women experience with it where it can complicate things around your cycles and just in general your well-being. However, I'm fortunate to say that I have not experienced that. I am only a year postpartum, but so far everything's been fine. I have had different fluctuations with my cycles, but those were all hormonal changes with breastfeeding and just the natural progression of your hormones leveling out after giving birth. But aside from that, everything's been fine. I know I'm ovulating because I still get my ovulation pains, but they haven't changed. They're not better, they're not worse. And also my cycles are fairly regular. Sometimes they're a couple days late, but that also has to do with breastfeeding. When it comes to periods and breastfeeding, it's just very unpredictable. So that's the most variation that I have. I've never had any point postpartum where I've thought, oh, the tubal was a bad idea. It's causing this. I wonder if this is a problem. I haven't had any issues as far as that goes. So as far as how I feel now, I feel really well. Like I said, my cycles are regular. I feel good around those. That's Lexi banging on the door. She's in a bedroom with her dad. I promise she's okay. But yes, I'm feeling good in that way. As far as my C-section scar, it feels fine now, and I don't really have any complications with it at all. It did eventually start healing up just fine. I will say that it is very noticeable though, and I have no shame around that. I'm just kind of notating the difference. I know that my C-section scar from my older 2 was still visible before I gave birth because my OBGYN commented on how barely visible it was and how great of a job my first surgeon had done. They did not cut along the same scar. I don't know if they just didn't see it or what, but I do have 2 different C-section scars now. However, my first one you can't even tell. Like if you were to look at me, you can't tell where it is. I know where it is because obviously it's a scar on my body and I know where I gave birth at. But with Lexi's C-section scar, it's very noticeable, and there's a side of it that has a bit more scar tissue than the rest of it. So I have no shame. If I were to ever wear a bikini or walk around naked, I would have no problem showing it. I don't care. To me, it just kind of highlighted the difference because my first surgeon, I could definitely tell that she took the time to make sure that everything would heal properly and she was doing the best that she could by me. Whereas this time around, I did not feel like that was the case. So that's everything as far as like physically postpartum, how I'm doing, and I've been feeling pretty good. As far as hair loss goes, you can see I've got the nice little regrowth over here. It's got a mind of its own, so it's just going to sit there the entire video. I tried for like 5 minutes to pat it down and it won't. So if you see it in videos, hey, how you doing? It's the gift that keeps on giving. It's always sticking out. I do feel like I lost a good amount of hair postpartum this time around, but not nearly as much with our middle daughter, Remy. I feel like with Remy, it was falling out by the fistfuls. My hair actually got really thin with her. It took quite a few years to grow it back in, but with Lexi, it has slowed down. I still do get a decent amount out in the shower, but I feel like it's slowly getting better. It's definitely something that I'm self-conscious about, but obviously it comes from giving birth, and that's just one of the things that might happen. So very normal, and now I think it's just time to talk about exclusively pumping because that's about everything else. So I am still exclusively pumping, and I will say that this journey has been really great. I'm very fortunate for this journey. It's been very different than my other two. I did exclusively pump with both my older girls. I know I definitely have a video on why I chose to exclusively pump with Sophie. With Remy, I'm not sure if I ever did a dedicated video on it, but with Remy, it was just a choice. At that point, I knew exclusively pumping was something that I wanted to do. So with our middle and youngest daughter, what I did is I would nurse in the hospital and for the first couple of weeks, and then I would slowly transition into exclusively pumping, and that's what I've been doing. Now with Lexi, she was a great nurser. She'd never had any problems, whereas with both of her older sisters, we did have complications, but with Lexi, she did a great job. So I nursed her randomly for I think like the first few months, but by this time, a year ago postpartum, I was like 99% exclusively pumping. And it's still something that fits really well with our life. It's something that allows me to sustain breastfeeding for a very long time. I know I still get the question a lot as to why I choose to exclusively pump, and it's just what's the best decision for me. Maybe you want to nurse and pump, maybe you want to exclusively nurse. Everyone has a different decision that best fits their life and what they want to do and things that they're interested in, things that are sustainable to them. And that's the kind of decisions that you're going to have to make as a mom. So that's the decision that I've made for myself. I don't find exclusively pumping to be a huge burden. It doesn't really bother me. It's just kind of part of my day. It's second nature. It's how I feed my daughter. So I'm all right with exclusively pumping. I enjoy it. I like sharing the information and the journey along the way. I think exclusively pumping past a year is something that's a little strange to most people because most are just trying to get to that year point or save enough milk to last until a year. But with myself, I just feel like I can sustain this for quite some time. With my oldest daughter, Sophie, I pumped for 10 months. With Remy, I pumped for a year and 9 months, I believe. And with Lexi, I'm going on 14 months. So a year and 2 months. And quite honestly, I feel like I could do this for another year right now. I mean, we'll see. And you guys know that historically, I don't really like to set goals for myself. But with how I feel right now in this moment, I would really like to see myself get to 2 years. It's something I've wanted to do with each of my kids. And all of my kids have had breast milk until 2. So with Sophie, I stopped pumping at 10 months, but I had enough frozen to keep her going until a year and a half, which is when I had Remy. And then she started getting fresh again. And she stopped drinking breast milk around like 3. She just started to prefer her almond milk. And with Remy, I pumped until a year and 9 months, but I started weaning around then, and it took me a couple months to do that. And then I had enough frozen to get her to 2 years, and that's when she just switched to almond milk altogether. But with Lexi, I would really like to still give her fresh breast milk. The biggest and most important reason is it's just something that I want to do. It feels sustainable to me. It feels like I can do it. I don't feel like it's a detriment to my physical or mental health. So I'm going to keep doing it because that's what I want to do. And number 2, she also does still have a heart condition. She has ASD, which is atrial septal defect. It's one of the best heart conditions that you can have. meaning obviously no heart condition is the best, but right now it does not require immediate care or anything like that. Right now she has 2 holes in her heart, and should one not close, they will have to do open heart surgery when she's around 4 or 5 to close both of the holes, because catheters do not work on a heart that small for multiple holes. There's a bunch of studies about heart defects in breast milk, so I would also like to keep it going for that. We're also in the middle of a pandemic and heading into flu season. And even while we're not going out, my husband is still an essential worker. He still goes out and he's working. I go out and I buy groceries and stuff like that. So obviously there's still the chance of bringing something home and us getting sick. And I've just noticed that when the girls are getting breast milk, even my older girls, if I give that to them, it helps us along better. I know everyone has a different opinion and an experience with that, but just with my kids, that's what I've noticed. So it's just something all around that I'm very interested to keep doing. And because of how my journey's been, I feel like I can keep doing it. This time around, I focused mainly on just feeding Lexi. It sounds selfish, but I didn't want to think about donating milk. I just wanted to focus on my baby and feeding her and see if I could just create a supply that was enough, that was comfortable, that was just suffice. And I was able to do that. In the beginning, I was pumping a lot more than what she needed. My natural oversupply just kind of kicked in, and I tried to donate that milk, but no one was ever interested locally. And I tried to donate to different milk banks and it just never happened. So I slowly, as I pushed my pumps apart just naturally without intentionally doing it, which I'll explain here in a second, my supply started to dip and I just didn't try to get it back. As of right now, at a year postpartum, I pump 4 times a day. First morning pump around 2 o'clock, around 8 o'clock, and then once before I go to bed, which is around 12. So that's more of like a 4-hour gap. And I'm going about every 6 hours in between pump sessions. I get about 12 ounces for my first morning pump. And then for the rest of the day, I typically get between 8 to 10 ounces. Collectively throughout the day, I'm getting anywhere between 30 to 40 ounces. That's obviously enough to feed Lexi, and I'm using all extra breast milk to put into something for the girls, whether it's a smoothie, like whatever. That has just been working really well. So I don't freeze any right now. I'm in a very comfortable spot. My pumps are pushed the way that they are, so I pump once when I get up, once when we're done homeschooling our older girls, and then once after we lay the kids down to bed, and obviously once before I go to bed. It's very sustainable. It feels very comfortable to me. I'm not worrying about storing milk and buying bags and if this milk is going bad or not. Lexi gets fresh milk literally all day long, so it's been working really well. I do use the Lansinoh Smart Pump 2.0. This is the pump that I have used for, it's got to be close to a year now, and it's still going strong. I have used Lansinoh pumps, the Signature Pro, the Smart Pump, and now the Smart Pump 2.0, and these guys are troopers. I can personally say to you, as an exclusive pumper who's gone years using these pumps, these are workhorses. They will follow you through. This 2.0 version, I can't say enough good things about it. It is so quiet. It's so efficient. It has lots of different settings and different modes, and it's so comfortable. I love this thing. It has a built-in battery pack underneath. It's a smart pump. You can link it to your phone with an app. It's great. And it's cheap too. They had this apparently on Prime Day for $60, which blows my mind. And I just want to say, if Lansinoh is watching this, thank you for creating a pump that is efficient, that works, that offers a lot, and is affordable. I can't say enough good things. So I really do love this pump. It is one of my most favorite. Also, the Pumpables Super Genie is one of my favorites, and I don't go anywhere. So that's the extent of me using pumps. I do use a new pump about every month because I'm doing reviews for you guys, but that varies, obviously. So I mainly use the Lansinoh 2.0. If I'm not using that, I'm using a pump that I'm trying for you guys. And then if I'm not using that, I'm using the Pumpable Super Genie. Those are the ones that I use on a consistent basis. My daughter drinks out of juvie glass bottles. I was looking around to see if there was an empty one on the floor or something, but I'm not going to be able to link those because those are discontinued. They came out with like a newer diamond version, but I've heard some very bad things about those, so I'm not going to recommend those. I also don't have any personal use with them, so I can't recommend them. But I have the old style of the glass juvie boobs. I will say that I am very happy with those glass bottles, and the only thing that I don't like is that it took me so long to find them. Honestly, I wish I would have had glass bottles with our oldest daughter, because they could have been handed down from each kid. Now each baby is going to like a different nipple, so maybe it wouldn't have saved us anything, but you know, they are very durable. I always worried about them breaking. We have tile floors, and Lexi will literally bang them on the tile, like smack them on the ground intentionally before I can get to her and make her stop. And those things hold up so well. We only recently threw one away, and it's because it cracked up at the top of the ring where it's like the most fragile, and it was because I dropped it. Okay, sorry about that. Had a little bit of a technical difficulty, probably in a little bit of a different spot. At this point, there's really only 3 accessories I use, if I use anything at all, for my exclusively pumping journey. So the most common are the Lavie warming massage pads. I'll put a picture right here since I don't have them with me. They're charging in our bedroom where Lexi is napping. But yeah, these are great. They vibrate, they're warming, they're very comfortable. I thoroughly think that they're worth the $80 that they cost, because they've been amazing. They help me empty faster. They're great for vasospasms. Love them. And then there's also the LacTeck Flanges, which I use quite often. These are very soft but durable flanges. They're just very comfortable. And there's also the BeauGen nipple cushions. Now, I typically use the LacTeck Flanges, and if those are dirty, I'll use the BeauGen nipple cushions. But I use both of those products during ovulation or during my period, where I am like very sensitive in my breasts. So that helps a lot when I'm just extra sensitive, or if I'm trying a pump that's just a little on the aggressive side for me, that also helps. So those are really the only 3 things that I'm using at this point. You know, if I use a hands-on bra, that'll be the pump strap or the Bravado clip-on bra. I've also had questions about what bras and tank tops I wear. The tank tops I get are from Walmart, and they've actually been better quality than the ones from Target. Hate to say that, but it's the truth. They've been holding up better. I'll link those down below. And then with the bra situation, I'm actually still wearing Bravado bras that I reviewed back like 4 years ago with Remy. There's no stains, there's no rips, there's no tears, there's not even like a seam out of place or coming undone or anything like that. They are just such high quality bras. I know the cost of those bras are still going to be pretty expensive to some, but I definitely think that if you have the money to buy the Bravado bras, that you should, because they are very long lasting, as I've seen myself. But most times I'm wearing their Body Silk seamless bras. So that's basically the products that I use from day to day, things that help my pumping journey. Still use my Boon drying rack, I use the OXO bottle brush, and I use 7th generation unscented dish soap to wash all my pump parts in my bottles. So that's just kind of like a rundown of where I am and how things are going. I'm very fortunate that things have been going as well as they have. At the same time, it's not to say that this has been easy for me. I've worked very hard to get to where I am. No matter what kind of journey that you've had, no matter if you're an undersupplier, oversupplier, you're just enougher, if you're nursing, if you're pumping, if you're doing exclusively one or the other or a little bit of both, every journey is difficult in its own ways. You're working hard, you're doing a great job, and I want all of you to remember that. So I think that's about everything for this update. If you guys have any more specific questions, leave them down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And as always, thanks for watching.